Hi and welcome back to the channel for another one of my live matches. This time I'm back on the Shropshire at Palethorpes, which is just above Soudley. Now it's a Bob Yeoman's Open on a Sunday and there's 20 odd here. I've drawn peg 5, which is next peg to where the Division 1 National was won a few years ago, which would have been peg 6 today. I got Motti on the other side of me on peg 4. And as you can see, early doors there's a lot of boats. We haven't even started yet and there's lots of boats moving, which has been the norm just lately. It seems that all the boats seem to be moving about in the morning and then it's quietening down later on in the match. The plan of attack today is, well, I've been catching a lot of fish on worms lately, so my plan of attack is going to be based on worms, basically. There's another boat going through, look. So the match has already started and I'm just waiting for this little influx of boats to go before I put any bait in. There's no rush, we're here for 5 hours. And I don't want the first bit of bait I put in washed all over the peg. I'm just going to wait for the boats to go over before I put any feed in. I've plumbed up a track line for worms, as I always do, worms and casters. Over, I've got some trees over, so to the right hand side of the trees I'm putting some worm and caster, and then directly in front of me I'm feeding ground bait. This is sweet skimmer and black roach. Again, I've got some black river mixed into it to give it that extra bit of bind, as I always do. And then long to my left, which is like nearly 16 metres away, it's a lovely depth, it's about 2.5 feet deep against the cover, and it should be out the way of the boats. So I'm going to start off by just loose feeding casters there. It's a bit awkward with the wind because it's a bit blowy and getting casters to that distance might be a problem, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm putting some ground bait just down the shelf in front of me, and I pop a couple of balls right up tight against the cover. There's lots of bream in this stretch of canal, so hopefully I can get amongst a few. So we've had that little runabout. Can't see any coming now, so hopefully my bait will stay in my peg for a bit. I do believe a lot of bait gets washed away when boats go over. I've always felt that. Your fire lines should be okay as long as the boats stay down the middle. If you get crossovers or awkward boaters who want to drive as far away from you as possible, your fire lines can get destroyed, which means you've got to feed again basically. But 9 times out of 10, most of the boaters just go down the middle. Pinch a worm and caster in there to go onto the right hand side of the tree. It's just over 2 feet deep there. I'm just popping it to the right hand side so as it can run into the tree. The flow here, natural flow here, is to the left, which obviously will make it ideal for that long line that I want to fish. Bit more worm and cast that. You can see how much is going in there. It's finely minced worm, that is. And a pinch of casters, and that's going directly down the track. There's a little bit of flow on the canal, it's not too hard. There's no locks on this canal, so the movement is created by boats mostly. The more boats you get, the more movement you get. There's times when it'll stand still, but today there's a bit of a flow on it. And like I said, it flows to the left. I'm starting the match by running a maggot over the top of my ground bait to see if there's any odd skimmers about. Sometimes you can catch an early bream or skimmer on the maggot over the top of your ground bait. So I'm just having a quick look, see if I can pick up anything there. This is a 4x10 F1 fine with a size 18 natural N10 and a single maggot on. I'm just loose feeding squats over the top of that ground bait. And that's me firing some casters over to my 16 metre line. It's between 15 and 16 metres. But the wind's blowing to our right, so it's going to be a bit awkward feeding over there. We'll have to see how that goes. And the first bite I get on it is a little gudgy. So we'll leave that alone for a bit. We'll go and have a look on the worm over to the tree. The float on this rig's a 4x12 F1 shallow. I've said it before, they're not just for shallow fishing, they're perfect for fishing worm over in the shallower water on the canal. Nice shaped little body so as you can hold on to them in flow. And they've got a decent tip on them, a 1.5mm tip, which is perfect for supporting a section of worm. And my first bite's a little perch. No damage to the worm, so we'll go straight back in on that. I'll just loose feed casters over the top of that all the time. Straight back in after the boat for another little perch. Deceiving perch are, you don't think them very big, but they weigh a lot more than what you realise. I never mind catching perch. Here we go again. There's another fish. A little bit bigger, this one. Nice little skimmer. Well, half decent size skimmer, to be fair. I'm using a size 16 natural M30, as I always do. Perfect for the worm. You don't get many fish come off these hooks. And again, I'm using my 6 elastic, favourite 6 slip. As you can see, I'm using like an 1.5 inch segment of worm there. Hooking it through the head and then nipping it off between my thumb and finger. See if we can catch a few more of them. Keeping plenty of casters going in. I'm still trying to feed that far line, but I'm struggling a bit because it's a bit, the wind's preventing me getting a lot of bait over there. We'll see how it goes. Another half decent fish. Lovely. I would have liked to have started down the track today, but that influx of early boats, I thought I'd put some bait and leave it settle for a bit. But it won't be too long before I go and have a look. And there's another boat preventing me from going and having a look just yet. I hate having to wear glasses. Especially when you get a fish kick up water in the net and it goes on your lenses and you just can't bloody see anything. Drives me around a bend. And I end up using my towel to try and dry my glasses and end up smearing fish slime all over my glasses. I'm useless. This line's proving quite productive at the minute. Again, it's only another little perch, but like I said, I've done halfway these things do. He's mullered the worm, need to put a fresh one on. You notice I put a white tub in the top of my worms. The white tub has got my chopped worm in, but I put that on top of my worm tub. I don't know whether it's the right thing to do, but it's white, and with it being really sunny, hopefully it'll reflect some of the heat away from the worms. I haven't lost any worms yet this summer, and I know a lot of people have, so maybe that is helping by putting that white tub on the top of it. I don't know, but I haven't, like I said, I haven't lost any worms yet. Quite happy with the way it's going at the minute. Maybe it's time for a refeed. So I'm going to feed the track again now. Like I've looked up, I can see now boats coming, so I'm going to give the track a quick feed my far line and go down the track and see if I can catch anything there. Same again for over. Pinch your worm, pinch your casters. Drop it just to the right of that tree there, right underneath the cover. And then hopefully catch running along that tree line. Time for a look down the track. Favourite, half a gram power float. With a bulk and a couple of droppers. Again a size 16 N30, and that's to now 16 hook length as well. Lay that out, let it settle, and then start working it through the peg. Trying to keep an eye on what's going on around me as well. It's a bit difficult because the bankside foliage is quite high. It's not been cut back a lot. And it's not took long and I've got a fish. Nice. You go, a nice little pommy. Worms untouched, just straight back in on it. Get my pole out the way of bank walkers. Now, I didn't expect this early in the match. We're 35 minutes into the match and I've hooked an eel. That doesn't usually happen. You don't usually hook them that early. But I've hooked one nonetheless. And it's a big one, this is. It's a big fish. Struggling to get him up off the bottom. It's kicking dirt up everywhere. It's really dirty, that water's getting, with him thrashing around up down on the bottom. Slowly he's coming up. I'll make a mistake here by pulling too much elastic out. That hook length is under a lot of pressure now. It's a big fish, this is. Pull some more elastic, keep pulling it, and I've made the mistake by pulling too hard. Instead of being a bit more patient. And he breaks me. Silly sausage. I gave that too much stick. Should have been a bit more patient. And he's brought me out 16 hook length. I do a lot of thrashing about, eels do. They do a lot of turning, twisting. Puts your hook length under a lot of pressure. 016 is not the ideal hook length for catching eels of that size. But I feel if I'd have been a bit more patient, I may just have got him out. Who knows? Give it another feed. The ironic thing is I've got an eel rig set up and I'm going to put it up now. And I'm going to put it in now. It's like closing the barn door after the horse has bolted. I've not seen too many eels caught by an individual during a match. One, two, if I'm lucky, they might catch two. I've never seen many on the canals. It'll just be the odd eel here and there. But I'm putting the rig in anyway, while I'm putting a new hook length on my light rig. If I can catch the bugger, look. So again, another R16 hook length with a size 16 N30 on. That rig I've got in down the track there, that's got an R20 hook length with a size 12 natural N50. And that float I got on there is an old Sensor's Nautilus. It's one that you can hold on to keep it still. And I'm using 15 Duraslip elastic on that rig. It'll give me a lot more chance if I do hook another one. First fish I hook's a perch. It's a 1 gram rig, this one is. It's a proper holding back eel rig. And I'm still getting bites, so I'm going to switch out now because I don't feel this rig is right for catching these smaller fish. So I'm going to go back to the light rig now and I might get more bites. Although I'm doing all right on this one, I feel I'll be doing better. I'm using a substantial sized piece of worm on this rig, and I feel I might be using a bit too much. Like I say, just missed a bite there. Could be small fish having a go, and I couldn't quite get it in the mouth. So once I've chopped these worms up, I'll go back in on the light rig and hopefully connect with those bites. Just as I thought, this is a smallish fish. Yeah, a little pommy. This fell off as I swung him in. Left me in a bit of a tangle. So I drop that down and go back in on the light rig. I never throw away the bits of worm that I take off the hook, or the ones that are cutting off. I always throw them in the worm pot ready for cutting. Waste not, want not. So back to a sensible sized piece of worm now, on a size 16 again. And we'll see if we can connect with some more of those smaller fish. Throwing casters over the top. It's in there 30 seconds and it goes under. And I was convinced I'd hooked another eel. I was thinking, oh my God, I don't believe it. Giving it loads of stick to get it up, and then realise it's a bream. Nice sized fish as well. Get in there. Beautiful. Look at that. Stunning fish. Look at that. See the smile on my face there. Thinking I ducked another eel and end up catching a bream. Happy days. See if we can catch some more. Proving quite productive this track line is at the moment. I've caught fish on both the lines of fed worms now. And I'm thinking to that far line to my left, although I've been feeding casters there, loose feeding casters, I'm wondering whether I'll benefit from feeding worms over there as well. I'll keep thinking about it for a bit while I try and catch a few more down the track. Little perch. Give that another little feed. I'm not putting many worms in, I'm just a taster really. And straight back over the top of it with a segment of worm. It seems all that's there at the minute, a little perch. This runabouts won't help the track line. So it's time to go and have a look at something else. And a crossover, look. Loads of boats. I don't chop too many worms up at a time because I don't want them drying out. I mean, it is very sunny, very warm. I don't want them drying out too quick. The more you chop up, the longer they'll sit there, and the more chance I've got of drying out. So I do them in little batches as and when I need them. So I'm going to go back over to my worm line and see if I can catch another fish or two there. There we go, a little tiny perch again. It's probably the smallest fish I've had today. On the worm, that is. Yeah, another boat. So it's time to go and have a look on the maggot over the top of where I've been loose feeding the casters. And I've not been happy with how many casters I'm actually getting over to the bush. So I'm putting a pot on. I'm going to feed a few through the pot. Tap them casters out and see if we can catch anything on the maggot. Here's another boat. Boat or chuck it is. I'll come back with a little fish. But it's worth a try putting some worm over there. The boats can't get anywhere near that line. So hopefully the fish will back off into that area and I'll be able to catch some more of them skimmers and pommies over there. Feed all my lines again. We've had a few boats now. I believe that bait gets washed all over the place, as I've said. So I'm convinced you have to start the peg again. So I'm going to do all my lines, refeed all my lines. So I'm over to my right hand swim. The reason I've gone to the front of the tree on that one and not further back is because it shallows right up in that area of the peg. Bit more ground bait, a few more squats in. While I'm catching on worms though, I'm not going to be going on this line, but it's worth keeping it topped up for later on just in case. I'll keep feeding it. I've not put any ground bait down the shelf this time. I'm just putting it towards the tree line, 13 metres. So we've had a few boats. It's clear there's some fish by the cover, so maybe the squat fish will be the same. Another quick look down the track while I let everything settle. I'll chop some more worms up while I'm fishing. That was a funny little indication, but it was worth striking at. It proves the fish is still there down the track. There's another perch. I'm getting through a few worms today. Starting to get a little concerned because I haven't got that many with me. It's time to go and have a look on my far line now. See if there's anything settled on them worms I'm putting over. Got a feeling this could be the best area of the peg. Lovely bit of cover, lovely bit of depth, out the way. What's not to like about it? And the first fish is a little perch. What's going on that rig as well? That's my worm rig. Well, that's a 4x14 into carbon, that float. It's a little bit deeper on that line, so needs a slightly bigger float for control. Shipping out tenderly just so as I don't spill any casters out the pot. Tap them in. That's a better fish. Get him back just before the boat turns up. Lovely. Nice chunky skimmer. Another piece of worm on. A few more casters in the pot. I've stopped feeding anything over there with a catapult now. I wasn't happy with how many were reaching, so tightened it all up by putting a pot on. I'm able to lose feeding all my other lines though because they're not quite so far. An inspired move putting them worms over there, I feel, as we're into another fish. Another decent fish. I'm really enjoying my canal fishing at the minute. I'm drawing some good pegs and I'm catching some lovely nets of fish. That's an half decent perch.
Perch. But I chucked him on a break.
what you got? Yeah, that's it. You know when it was black arm, I could see them all blowing her peg. In the peg where she's fishing, there was fucking fish everywhere. This time I'm going to put a little tiny bit of worm in the pot with the casters. Give it a little tiny top up of worms. Hey? Just making sure they're all finely minced up. No, it's not that it's rubbish. This is Fargo's ready for packing up. But like when he was setting up, just a little pinch, look. Pinch your casters as well. I've said this before, I never take the dirt out of my worms but before I chop them. So that dirt helps to bind them, plus it puts a little bit of cloud in the water as you're putting your worms in. I'm not feeding much worm, but it looks like I'm putting a lot in because there's still dirt in there. An extra attractant maybe. You can see it when it goes in, there's a black cloud come off my worms. I know people like washing the worms. I don't. I never have done. I just feel it gives you that little bit more attractant when you're putting your worms in. Something else for the fish to have a look at as it's going through the water. It's a nice little black cloud. And we're into another decent fish. This line's turned into a brilliant area of the peg. Beautiful. For that. Got to be a pound and a half, he has. Yeah. Pounded a bit. And another one. He's great fishing again. Like I said, I'm really enjoying my canal fishing at the minute. I'm drawing on some pegs, which is half the battle. I'm catching some right weights of fish as well. Really enjoying it. Another decent fish. Look at that. Beautiful. Like peas in a pod, the last two have. And again. Fisher chuck. Putting that little pot on and adding some worm to the pot has made a massive difference to this peg. A little bit smaller, that one. Not much. It's got to be £4 in the last 3 fish. Thereabouts. Just casters this time. So I go into a routine of every second fish I put a little bit of worm in, but I put casters in every time. That seemed to be the ideal feeding pattern. Chopping some more worms in between catching fish, that is. Another decent fish. Another red letter day. Get in there. Cracking. Being careful not to spill any casters as I'm shipping. I've also had to back off the worm a bit now because I'm running out. I've also pushed the rig a little bit further over towards the bush now. Peg's starting to get a little bit slow. There's still fish there, but I'm getting a little bit harder to catch now. So I'm having to push over to the cover to get those extra bites. But there's still plenty of fish to be caught. Lovely fishing. The bigger ones have backed off a bit now. I'm still catching some decent stamp fish though. Still plenty over there. This is lovely. It's helped my peg as well with the trees overhanging, that bit of shade on the water. So I've got that nice cover, got some nice shade. There's fish are loving that area of the peg. And these boats aren't affecting it at all. In fact, when you can fish to there, when you can fish to an area of the peg like that where the boats can't get at it, it doesn't matter how many boats you have. The colour that the boats are pouring into the water give the fish more confidence to feed. So I'm not fussed about boats coming through at all. Not at all. In fact, they really help, to be honest. Boats have always affected the anglers more than the fish anyway. I start to slow down over on that line now. So I'll give it a top up again. Top up the track first. So that little cloud gone into the water there, look. That's just created by the worm dirt. That is all. There's hardly any dirt in the worms anyway when you put them in your cutting pot. But whatever is stuck to them helps create a cloud. Give my ground bait line a top up as well. Have another look down the track, see if we can catch anything there. Put a little tiny bit of water in the worms to stop the shot worm drying out in the heat, in the sun. And even with all those boats coming through, there's still fish down the track. By keeping it topped up, you keep some fish in the area. Doesn't always work, but it definitely has today. Another decent fish look. Just checking to see if I see any boats coming. And again, another fish. You wouldn't believe the track would be so productive with all the boats we've had. I've had a couple of crossovers as well. And there's still fish to be caught. Cracking fishing. That lovely roach on a single caster that was. Run a caster over the top of it, see if there's anything about, and there you go. Back over to the long line. Catch a few more fish there. Keeping my lines topped up, I'm able to go and pick a few fish here and there off each line. And then some lovely stamp fish. Beautiful. Worm's been mega for me today. Not had to use my squat rigs once at all today. Another cracking fish. Got to a point in the match where I could still catch fish off all my lines, but I had to rotate them more frequently. If I sat too long on a line, you'd catch a fish or two and then you'd have to move again. This one was on a single caster over the worm line in front of me. Never had too many fish on the caster on the day. I had two, one down the track and one over on that right hand line. Never caught any caster fish over on the long line. Everything seemed to be on the worm. Well, everything was on the worm. Another brilliant day on the bank. Another quality fish. He definitely felt heavier than he looked. He had another one. Fish after fish after fish. And then we finished up with one more down the track. Final fish of the day. Another beautiful bream. Look at that. When the scales come, £6 was the best up to me. I needed two ways.
You know exactly what peg you're going to win, whatever match you're going to fish. Who's going to have what? Anyone's. Been a bit tough one in here earlier. 35 minutes in, I've done it down the track. You see me on the light gear. I don't think so. I've gone on the heavy gear. And had a perch at the top of it. Go back on the light gear. Clunk. I'm like, no, another reel. But it was that big boy. That is £4, £6, £7.11 first wage, Jeffrey. 4, 6, 11. No, sorry. 8, 10, 11. I was going to say there's definitely 11. Yeah, no. 11.
The first weigh went £11 and 11 ounces.
11 first weigh. It does look more than that. You can do it again if you want it, but. Huh?
Just give it a double check. Make sure you got it right.
It's because you're counting backwards, isn't it?
Probably. So 8, 10, 11.
£11, 11 ounces.
11. But you're right, I confused myself counting backwards. Call it like that, mate. Call it that, shall we?
My second weigh went £12 and 1 ounces to give me another cracking day on the canal. For a total weight of £23, 12 ounces for another match win. There was an £18 further up the canal for second, another cracking weight of fish. And it fished okay in general, everybody had over £4. Great day's fishing. Really happy with how I fished on this match. I'm disappointed I lost that eel. That was my own fault. I'm sure I'd give myself more of a chance if I had tried to pull his head off. If I'd have given him a bit more leeway, maybe I'd have got him in. We'll never know. Cracking day's fishing other than that. If you enjoyed watching that, give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more, please subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.